Welcome to Behind the Play, a video and podcast product of The Hoop Show that explores the lives of Geelong players past and present, as well as the off-field figures that are keeping us Geelong strong. But sometimes we get some really cool folks from the other side of the fence who, look, we shouldn't really like them because they're the other mob, but they're pretty sweet people, and Luke, you're one of them, so welcome aboard, mate.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me, Paul, and The Hoop Show. I been a long time admirer on Twitter and stuff, and
Oh, sweet.
And yeah, it's.
I see a bit going back and forth between you and Ben from time to time.
Yeah, but it's nice. It's all lovely. It's all lovely banter. As much as like you said, as much as I should hate Geelong for everything that you guys have done, it's good. It's nice to be on this side of the fence sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I think some of the things I've been enjoying most, I mean, even when Ben pitched me on the idea of the show and what we could do with it, was, you know, mostly about, I mean, even as the intro suggests, it's Geelong people, it's Geelong players, it's Geelong this, Geelong that, but some of my most enjoyable episodes so far, no offense to those Geelong people, have been some, again, people kind of like yourself from the other side of the fence, that there's a different perspective. We can still kind of, we can talk about both teams, we get to wax a little bit about Geelong, wax a bit about the Pies in this case, and I guess as we kind of jump into it, you and I are in a great circumstance at the moment because both our teams are on a fair old roll at the moment, and
yeah,
it's not often, I guess, have we had two teams on such a streak like this since probably Geelong and St Kilda in 2009 or something? I don't know if there's been two teams on a streak like this since then.
There actually has 2011. 2011. Us and you.
Okay, yeah, again. All right. Well,
Yeah,
at least we're keeping good form.
It's a little bit of a look. I don't tend to believe in football omens too much, but this is too much of a crazy coincidence to not be an omen.
Well, look, if that's the case, I won't object because we rolled you. You're only 3 losses the year that year were us, and
hopefully that changes a little bit. But
you just want that one little tweak to the whole thing.
But no, it's crazy. Like who would have thought? Like I was talking to Ben earlier this year, so I think we had just
Is that after like round 3 or something?
Well, yeah. So after Geelong rolled us, we were kind of chatting, and we're like, oh, do we play each other later on? He's like, I'd love to have you on. I'm like, yeah, no, that'll be great. I go, one of us said, unless we meet each other in finals, we'll just do it next year.
Yeah.
And now it's getting closer to finals, and
we're going to meet. Maybe good chance we might meet.
Exactly right. Depending on how these last couple of rounds play out, there's a good chance that it's us versus you in that first game.
Yeah, that seems to be. I mean, every time I mess around with the ladder predictor, and obviously, God knows at the moment because it's all over the place. But yeah, everything I kind of do seems to stack up in favour of Geelong v Pies in the round 1 of the finals, which is pretty exciting prospect.
It's huge, and especially that game earlier in the season. It kind of that kind of game for me sparked not a belief that we're second on the ladder at the moment, but like it's not that sort of belief, but kind of a belief in the system and in Craig, and
you can take it up to the top dogs.
Yeah, that we can kind of match it up to you guys, and that, like I say in all my preview videos and my reviews and stuff, that sort of lapse that we got in that last quarter probably doesn't happen now that we're seeing out these games a little bit more. But and like I always say, you got to lose those sort of games to learn from them. It's sometimes losing is the best way to learn, but
yeah, for sure.
Times being 11 in a row is another good place to learn as well.
Yeah, it's there's a lot you can still learn from, especially I think the nature of some of the Pies wins. I know a lot of people are kind of going, they're just getting over the line against. I mean, obviously you did it against Melbourne most recently, but even prior to that, there was kind of but a lot of them are kind of bottom 10 teams and that sort of stuff. I'm like, sure, that's fair. I can totally see the point, and it's why, no offense, but I did tip against you guys going into the Melbourne Pies game. There was that little bit of I get it, but there's another level between most of those teams in Melbourne.
Yeah,
and obviously you proved that sort of thinking was complete shit. But there was kind of thinking like, yeah, okay, there might be lower teams, but close wins, doing it week after week after week, like that. Maybe at first people go, oh, it was a fluke. Yeah, all right, 2 in a row, sure, whatever. You don't do it 10 times going into that game in a row.
Yeah,
without there being some sort of system to what's going on and an approach to it. And yeah, obviously, against Essendon, there was a few things that went right in that last 45 seconds or so in terms of the way the Bombers kind of stacked up. But you create your own luck. There's all those sorts of things that come into it, and you play a certain way, you approach a game a certain way, and these things tend to fall your way, which I guess, considering that both Geelong and the Pies are playing a very similar sort of game plan at the moment, makes it incredibly exciting for that game. terrifying in some ways because it could be one of those things where luck plays a huge part. Like if the ball just bounces one way because both teams are going a million miles an hour at it, bounces one way and all of a sudden there's a goal or whatever. Like that's scary, I think, for both supporters of both teams, but it's exciting too.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like you hit the nail on the head. You do this 2-3 times. You go, okay, cool. Even Essendon, before we played them on a 3-game winning streak, you go, okay, that's nice. Then you do it 4, 5, 6. You go, hang on a second. And yeah, we were versing bottom teams, but when you finish 17th on the ladder,
that's what happens.
You expect to get those sort of bottom teams leading up, and you have supporters saying it's luck. Sorry, opposition supporters, it's luck, it's this, it's that. It's like, well, I don't see your team winning 11 in a row. You know what I mean? And one thing that I do always say on my videos and stuff is that the Pies now are conditioned, I feel like, to win these really close games. So, I'm like, I'll just use that Geelong game as an example from earlier in the year. Even if you need like 9 goals, you kick like 9 or something goals, something crazy.
Yeah, 7 in the last. You guys kicked 9 in the third, but it was like 7 in the last. Yeah.
You kick, even if you kick 5 or 6, that's when that kind of extra Pies that for the last 11 or 12 weeks kind of kick into gear and say, hang on a second, we know how to close off these games now. And I don't feel, because we've done it for like 11 weeks, and that's just crazy to think that we've had to do it like that. These other teams, like Port Adelaide, like Melbourne last week, they haven't been in the position that many times as we have to know how to win these sort of games. And it does fall on luck, but it's skill and it's game plan as well.
Yeah, you make your own luck, and there is that combination of skill and all those sort of things alongside it. Yeah, okay, maybe 11 in a row. There's a few that are lucky along the way, but you're not gonna. No one can sit back and say all 11 were luck. Like that's not how these things roll. Like you got to be able to do it yourself and have a plan that stacks up and a game plan that stacks up. And I think, luck aside, like you're playing a similar. I mean, I'm obviously hoping that Geelong wins the flag, but like you're playing a model that is prompting the top. Like is exactly the same as what the top team is doing at the moment. I mean, they're there for a reason.
100%.
Setting my bias aside.
Yeah, and it's like you're kind of like at the moment you're kind of like the big brother for this sort of game plan because you're right, we are playing that sort of similar, that quick sort of game plan. I was looking at what was I watching, one of the footy shows, and they were showing just you guys just running out of half back and not being afraid to like the handball and through the middle, and it's just crazy. And it helps that you've got two of the best, or if not two of the
Premier certainly top 3 in the Coleman.
Like that's just when you're kicking to Cameron and Hawkins, you just close your eyes and kick, and they're going to take the mark 9 out of 10 times. You know what I mean? So it's and we don't have that, so that's why we're kind of grinding out these games, and that's why your last 11 games have been scintillating. Like they've been amazing.
Yeah, it has been a bit of a luxury to have those two blokes up there, and then I guess the big weakness that we'd had, which was kind of in the small forward department, we've now gotten the likes of Stengel and those sort of blokes to come in and around them, and kind of a rise in what you see from Brad Close and Brian Myers and those sort of guys that are buzzing around their feet. They're really complementing it really well. But and I guess I feel like if we play the Pies, that's the area that we could, as much as you've got some brilliant defenders in Moore and Howe, just as examples, I think maybe the height and the way we can kind of use that might be a way that we can exploit you guys, but I mean, who knows? You guys have got plenty of guns as well that can blow us away as well.
Yeah, exactly. But like
bloody Jamie Elliott.
That's what happened in round 3. You know what I mean? Those 7 goals were because we were just like, we couldn't do it. We absolutely couldn't run with you guys. No roughing stuff. And now we've kind of eased back into it without that premier fullback. But yeah, that's, and I think I think I've been saying it on Twitter. Like, I think, if it's not going to be Collingwood, it's going to be, that's Collingwood that's just my super bias.
Yeah, of course.
We're probably not even going to make, who knows what's going to happen.
Who knows? But, can't rule it out.
Could be anything, but
they're playing a great brand.
That's exactly right. But I think Geelong have, and not because I'm on this show, I just think that Geelong they're just, I said it on Twitter the other day, they're just another level. Like, it's just, everything is just working. And I even said a couple of weeks ago, I was like, what you guys have done in the last decade or so, let's say since 2009-ish, because that's been about a decade or 12 years or whatever it is. And, your run recently hasn't been that good with prelims or whatever it may be. But to be able to compete, like, even though you're not getting
not drop off,
to be able to compete with the same core players and bringing in new players, bringing into that system, that Geelong system that everybody talks about, I'd rather be bit of a stupid thing to say, but I'd rather be losing prelims than fighting off the wooden spoon. You know
Yeah,
what I
no,
mean?
that's fair.
So
No, I'd agree. Better to give yourself a chance. And I guess
100%.
the thing that's been interesting, and obviously, we've kind of copped the retirement home comments and all those sorts of things all year, but I mean, I think that ignores the likes of Sam DeConing and those sorts of guys that are coming through. That Tyson Stengel's 23, that
Yep.
Atkins is 25, 26. There's Close, there's Myers, there's all these sort of guys that are. In some cases, they've had to, especially if you use kind of Atkins as an example, who's really just playing the Joel Selwood role these days.
Yep.
Like he had to do his time. He really had to work to get that spot, and I think it kind of showed through when he commented after a game recently, despite the fact that he's probably been our best player over the last 7 or 8 weeks. He still feels like he's on the fringe.
Yeah.
And that's because of where you've come from and what you've had to do, and obviously the caliber of people around you still, no matter their age, makes it like it really hardens you.
And that's and that's like exactly like I said. That's just the Geelong. That's just the Geelong way. Like you have to, and that should be every player's, every team's thinking. Doesn't matter if you're a Joel Selwood or a Scott Pendlebury. You have to fight for your. Nothing is guaranteed anymore. But can I just ask you, just to digress a little bit?
Yeah,
Because
no,
I
go
can't
for
wrap
it.
my head around it. This cult figure of Brad Close. I don't watch enough Geelong games to kind of know what he's about, but I see it. Hoops tweets about it all the time. I
Yeah.
see it just everywhere. Can you give me a TLDR on Close?
Look, there's a portion of it that I don't understand myself. Like there is a level of the fandom that I don't quite get, but like there is a level of silk with that bloke that Geelong hasn't had in quite a while.
Yeah.
Like the decision making. I mean, I'm not going to go as far as compare him to Scotty Pendlebury, but like he does. Like there is that degree of the game kind of slows down. He always hits his targets. It's clean. It's smart. Geez, when he missed a shot from 20 meters out, almost directly in front the other day, I nearly fell off my chair because it was just I couldn't believe that. Like, and obviously just proved that he's still human. But yeah, there's some of those qualities that I guess we do see in Pendles playing a different position in the field, of course, but that are kind of there. And it's for me, that's kind of what's really taken my fancy about the way he plays the game. There is that same degree of the game slows down and he just always finds a target. He's always clean. He's always that split second before everyone else. So sometimes, just to the degree to, the two players colliding, he seems to be there that split second before, so he's able to slap it out or quickly fire the hands, whatever it is. There's a game smarts on top of all that is really appealing.
Yeah.
Shit, I think that maybe is what it is. As I talk about it, I'm going, hang on. That's what it is. All right, I'm part of the fan club. Let's go.
I'm in. Put his number on my back. I'm in. I'm in on Close. No, I love that. That's
Except if you're playing against us.
Except, yeah.
Crunch him.
It's,
Send Braden Maynard onto him and pile drive him like you did Neil Bullen.
That's exactly what's gonna probably happen, man. But yeah, no, that's cool. Like, yeah, because I always see him popping up, and I'm like, I need to know more about this guy. Because I don't watch a lot of anyone's sort of games. I'm kind of just in my Collingwood bubble. But yeah, I like the way he looks, and sounds like I would like the way he goes about if he plays a bit like Pendlebury.
Yeah, there's a silk there that I really love. One final thing before we kind of wade into you and what you've been doing on the content creation side and all those really cool aspects. Something that I recall you discussing after the Geelong and Collingwood game, and I don't know if you got any backlash, so I'm kind of curious to pick your brain about that, because I wholeheartedly agree with you. You spoke about that game, or in your review of that game. I don't know if you recall it now, there was the incident between Jack Ginnivan and Joel Selwood.
Yep.
And you at the time you were talking about, I mean, because I guess for anyone watching or listening who's kind of unaware, Joel got him high, which was beautifully ironic. Even as a Cats fan, I couldn't help but laugh at that. But then Joel held on. Good probably 5 seconds is about right. But it was kind of, I mean, he got him high, and obviously everyone talks about his shoulder shrugging. Again, Joel did the same thing. He's the leader in that sort of stuff. Yeah. So let's ignore that. But yeah, he kind of locked right around, but not far away from even choke a whole territory, if we're being honest.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And you were pretty vocal about that, and you're kind of maybe expecting a bit of backlash from at least Geelong supporters. Did you get much of that? Because I wholeheartedly agree with you, despite the fact that I was on the other side of the fence. Like, I don't think it was a good look. I don't think Joel's a dirty player, and I'd like to hope most people don't. People might hang shit on him for his shrugs or any of those sort of things, but I don't think anyone thinks of him as a dirty player necessarily. I hope not. But that was a moment that I'd like to think he wasn't proud of.
No, like, thank you for agreeing with me. I don't have a lot of opposition supporters agree with me, so it's really.
I try to be as unbiased as I can.
Look, and that's exactly what I try and do. I try and be unbiased, but sometimes you have to go into bat for your team, and we know the media from Ginnivan from round one, and it wasn't. And it
Yeah,
just
Cornsey
it
got him
just,
early, and it created a
exactly
problem.
right. And it just so happened to be, and like you said, it's beautifully ironic that it just so happened to be Joel Selwood. But yeah, I did cop a lot of backlash. I think I put a TikTok up. I put a TikTok up about it. Copped a lot of backlash on
Yep.
there. Because you get the Duckovan comments and stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
But I don't think Joel Selwood's a bad player. And sometimes you kind of hate these players because they're so good.
Yeah.
I hope Cripps doesn't get off. I hope he gets 4 weeks somehow because
Yeah, I guess for what it's worth, everyone watching and listening, like the tribunal, the appeal is happening right now as we speak. So we don't know the result yet. Maybe we'll know before the end of the show. Who knows?
Yeah, but look, you just hate these players because they're so good. But seeing that, it was only probably Ginnivan's like 10th game or something ridiculous like that. It's not a good look, and yeah, it looked gross with the chokehold. Doesn't matter about the high or anything, just with that hold, and that no one was going to bat for him. I had a lot of comments going, he deserved it. He had what was coming to him. Next time, do it to him while he's on the floor. It's just like,
yeah, that's bullshit.
It's just like, okay, I get that there's a football element, but there's also a human element. I like to think of myself as a somewhat decent human being.
Yep.
Like, you wouldn't do that. You don't go to work and expect to be chokeholded, at your desk. Why would you go to football? You expect to get bumps and bruises and hits, but I wouldn't expect someone to put me in a sleeper hole when I'm at the MCG on the wing in front of 8,000 people. Like, I don't think people put too much emphasis on the football and not the player and the look. And I kind of get it. I kind of get that we're so passionate, but you've got to kind of separate and go, hang on a second. Yes, he put his arm up. It shouldn't have been whatever it may be, free kick, whatever. But okay, that didn't look bad. That looked so bad, Joel. Like, but it's just a fine line that people tend to lean the wrong way on. But hopefully we kind of learn from that sort of look.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if I recall, I don't think there was any. I really don't remember any media beat up about it either.
No fine, no anything.
Yeah, and I mean, I probably agree that it didn't deserve a fine or those sort of things, but I think it deserved some sort of talking about in a similar sort of way that we're having now, which is, again, Joel, we don't think you're a bad bloke, but
it's not
like this shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was. I guess probably at the root of it, I'm trying to project a little bit here. I'm sure at the root of it was the usual tactic that any player has when they give away a free, which is some small way of just holding him up, stopping him.
Yeah.
Problem was, Joel, you got him around the neck in the first place, so you can't keep holding him there. Like,
Exactly.
find some other way to, I don't know, just stay on top of him, take you a while to get up, that sort of anything.
Exactly right. And
But not that.
I guess that's what, benefit of the doubt, that's what it was. Still wasn't a good look, but what can you, in the end,
There's other ways to do it.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, Joel, I don't think Joel was a dirty. I didn't think he did it on purpose or anything like that. Just, yeah, people just got to really, just kind of calm, especially when it comes to Ginnivan. We've seen it a lot this year as Collingwood reporters. People just have to like him or hate him or whatever. People just got to really calm down, and the media, and even just off Ginnivan, just the football media is just nuts. And as a Geelong supporter, you've copped it, like you said, with the retirement home. Geelong don't recruit any players under 40 years old and stuff, but still being able to, these guys get paid to say that, but you guys are outright first you guys are first on the ladder.
Yeah.
Like, how do they get it? How
It
do they
speaks
get
for
it so
itself.
wrong? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those sort of weird things. No, I mean, I understand where the commentary around the retirement home comes from, but as you said, the results are the results. Make your comments, but then be willing to eat humble pie when Geelong or whoever the team happens to be that you're speaking about, or the individual player, proves otherwise.
Yeah.
And obviously the internet still wants to make its retirement village jokes, so there's just even more fuel in the belly that if we manage to be successful at the end of September, I'll remind them that the bunch of old pricks won the grand final again.
I would just, if you guys do get it, and because at the start there was a couple of retirement home sort of.
Well, we didn't get off to a good start.
Yeah, and but I would love a Mad Monday with the Premiership Cup, Geelong
walking frames out,
all with walking sticks. Like that's all I ask. That's all I ask for. That would be hilarious.
I'd be beside myself. If anyone from the club is watching now, can you just get in Joel and the boys' ears and just make that happen?
Please get the costumes ready.
All right,
Yep.
You're doing some really cool stuff under the Swoop Luke kind of handle and tag there, and you've got the YouTube content, as you mentioned, there's TikTok, all those sorts of things as well. But before we get to all of that stuff, how did you come to fall in love with the game in the first place? Were you one of those that was kind of born almost with the footy in the hand? Like, were you there from day one? Did you discover it a little bit later on? How did footy come into your life that you recall?
So it pretty much came into my life in primary school. So not wasn't a football family. My grandparents were immigrants and stuff like that, so they came here like ages ago. So dad
Yep.
didn't really get into it. Mum wasn't really into it. But in primary school, you're kind of made to follow a team, with your friend groups and stuff like that. And I just happened to choose Collingwood. So when I started Auskick, mum and dad got me a little Spices jersey.
Nice.
So that was pretty fun. And then kind of going on from there, and as a kid, you kind of you just kind of ride with the bumps and stuff. But I really started getting into it in high school is when you kind of start getting super sort of passionate about
Yep.
it, and then winning a grand final in 2010 just elevates it to the next level. And then it kind of like died down, not the love for the club, but just it just kind of like slowed down a little bit
Yep.
until about 2019, where it was I just had so much to say and no one to talk to about it, or who would tell me, you know, just it's
To
just a game.
encourage
Like,
it and
just,
yeah.
yeah, it's just like just we know you lost, but you don't have to. It's just a game. Like it's fine. It'll be next week. It's like no, like I've got so much to say, and rightly, I'm not a football AFL expert or a coach or anything, but I just thought let me put a camera up, let me talk in front of a camera, even if I'm just talking to myself. At least I'm getting everything that I want to get out of my
Yeah.
head onto the screen, and I just found it was in a way it was very cathartic as well. If we had lost, I could kind of talk about it and then move on, because previously it was
You get it out of
very
the system, right?
yeah, exactly right. And previously it was very let me just get let me just let this ruin I'm ready for this loss on Friday night to ruin my entire weekend and all
Yeah,
my
right.
relationships around me. But this way, yeah, it's not only good to for my love for the game, but it's also very cathartic for me. And I feel like I'm a much as cliche as it sounds, I feel like I'm a much actually better person now
Yeah.
with having to be able to sort of get all of my thoughts out on screen.
Well, I'd imagine a part of it is because of the fact that you're presenting for a platform there, and especially like a growing platform and a growing audience and those sorts of things. That as a result, like I guess for a lot of people, typically when their team loses, focusing on that side of it, when their team loses, it's usually a pretty harsh, kind of snappy, not necessarily even properly thought through response as to how and why it happened. And they
Yeah.
start, you often get some that will start pointing the fingers at the coach or certain players and that sort of thing. And I don't know if you were ever in that sort of headspace at various different points, but I think when you're presenting for a platform, if you're doing like a match review like you do, for example, or anything along those sort of lines, because you're presenting for an audience and there's a content aspect to it, it forces you to just take a moment, think
Yeah.
through it a little bit more, and try and be a little bit more rational about the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of fantastic elements to that. And win, lose or draw, of course, you get to debrief, and
Yeah.
that's I think really, really important. It gives you an opportunity to process it properly
100%. And like
and get it out of the system.
yeah, that's right. Like I usually do my reviews for the game a day or two after, just so I kind of like can mellow out. Because I remember one time in 2019 when I started, I think we got smashed by West Coast one night,
Yep.
and I thought, all right, I recorded straight away. I recorded a 15-minute episode, edited it and stuff, because I've never had done day of, right? So I thought, all right, while the emotions are high, while everything's going on, let me record it. So I recorded it, edited it, didn't upload it. Was going to upload it the next day, and I started watching it back the next day,
Yep.
and I go, I wouldn't watch like this. I was embarrassed to see
Yeah.
what I like. It wasn't like you said. It wasn't a rational. It wasn't a rational review. It was very emotion based, and my reviews are still emotion based. But at least
But you can
if you
channel
take
it in the right way. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. If you take 24, 48 hours, you can go. Okay, I can watch the highlights. I can look at this. I can look at that. I can form opinions that aren't based on, oh my god, we got smashed by 40 points. This shouldn't happen. This shouldn't happen. This shouldn't happen. These guys need to go. You can just mellow out a little bit, and it definitely helps.
I mean, like even all the experts that are like the experts, quote unquote, that have kind of been getting their big bucks, whether it's TV, radio, newspapers, whatever it happens to be. People have been, they're professionals in this space, even they have an opportunity post game to talk to the other blokes in the commentary box with them, or whatever. If they're writing for a newspaper, they've actually got time as well. So,
Yeah.
It's really the same sort of idea there, and it gives you an opportunity to not that. And I guess it's a very fickle sort of space. I think these sort of things, because if you do take the time, and it's not just exclusive to footy either. I mean, it's even the same sort of thing with me and kind of the video game stuff that I do on the side. It's like if you hear too many voices, then suddenly what you say isn't your own thinking. You've even subconsciously you're kind of pulling a little bit that that Luke said here, and this little bit that someone said here, and whatever, and suddenly it's not really. I mean, maybe you believe in those, but it's not necessarily your own words. And so there's kind of a sweet spot that needs to be struck in a lot of these sort of things, and how much you do and don't listen to afterwards.
Yeah, 100%.
But it helps still.
It does. And like I said, if you're waiting 24, 48 hours, you get other fans tweeting some stuff that you might not have seen, and another way of thinking, and you go, okay, let me look at it this way. And my dad always said that. So since I started, Dad's always said that people are watching you because, they're watching you because they love the game, they love the Pies, and they like your opinion. He goes, but you've got to realize that, you have to sort of not be so how can I say it? Not very like on the fence sort of thing. You do
have to have something to say.
Yeah, exactly right. You can't. They're watching you for a reason. You can't just back down, but you can't be overly. There's a very fine line of backing down and being very over the top emotional, which is if you've ever, I don't know if you've seen my live Instagrams after the game, that's when I shouldn't be recording lives after the game on Instagram, but that's when it gets pretty nuts.
There's more of the hot-headed stuff.
Yeah. So that's what I can't do on reviews, but it's nice to have both of those outlets.
Yeah, it gives you an opportunity to still digest it, but also still have the crazy stuff that can still happen. I think, again, we're all human. That stuff exists. It happens. I mean, there's a certain game that I think about in 2006, 5, whatever year it happened. Certain game against Sydney that I'll never mention that bloke's name. I've flat refused to ever since. But I mean, that's what it is. I've never been so filthy at a footy game in my life.
Yeah,
and I was at the 2008 grand final loss.
Yeah, and we have that with the 2018 grand final loss. And no doubt you see that early 2000s. Whenever it's finals time, it comes up, and it just, as much as you think that it's not going to bother me this year,
still prickles you.
It just hurts. And that is the beauty and the beast of football. We love it and we absolutely hate it because
it brings out the best and the worst in us. But
it does.
But as we've discussed, it's how you channel it and how you kind of, if you're out there having an opinion, it's how you then present yourself afterwards.
Yes. Yep.
So, I mean, you obviously said you kind of land on the Pies, and you got your little jersey when you were really young. How did you land on the Pies? What was it about the Pies that was so appealing?
I just wanted to be liked by my friends.
A lot of them were Pies supporters.
Yeah, so it was very when you were playing football in primary school, around, everyone's like, I'm going to be this player, I'm going to be this player, and me not growing up with any of that was I don't know who to be. I don't know who you want me to be. So. So it was very just go with whoever my immediate friends were, and they were Collingwood supporters, and I guess the rest is a little bit of history. From there, yeah.
So we've touched on, I guess we've loosely referenced. Well, we've mentioned 2010, the success you had there. We've touched on kind of 2018, I guess, to kind of circle around the Geelong and Collingwood aspect of this. And I'm not going to sit here and gloat, I promise, don't worry.
No, that's all right. You can. It's all good.
What are your memories of 2011, how that kind of played out? Because obviously, I mean, yes, we were the only team you'd lost to through the year up to that particular point. But at the same time, you'd been a dominant team all year.
So
what was that like?
I really equate 2011 was the most fun I've had at the football.
Yeah.
And 2022... So this year is the most fun I'm having at the football since 2011.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, which is really cool, But so 2011, you would get there. I'd go with Dad or whoever I'm going with. We kind of sit down and we kind of go, okay, let's play a game. how much past 100 points are we going to get this week?
That's a
How
good
much
game
are
to
we
play.
going to beat these teams by this week? And it
Closest
was
to the
very
pin.
yeah, and it was nice to just sit back and just watch this exciting team who just won a premiership, trying to vie for back to backs. That hasn't happened for decades and decades at the Pies. And I think the first Geelong game we lost to you by under a goal. Was it 4 points? I don't know why I'm putting that
Yeah, it was
number
a
out of
closer
my
one earlier on in the year. Then we smacked you in the final round of the
yeah.
season. But I think most people were pretty quick to, okay, it's the final game before the finals. One team's
Yeah,
clearly trying to keep up the momentum, others trying to rest and get themselves sorted. Sure, let's ignore that one.
so that was. I remember being at that game in the pocket on level 3, watching that, and we were just getting smashed. And you, as a Pies fan, you're going, okay, this sucks, but we've got finals just around the corner. You can see why we're playing like this. But it was also, like you said, it also team like Geelong wanted to go into the finals with all this momentum, and I think that was our downfall as well. Like
Yeah.
one of the downfalls. I don't know if you want to get into grand final, but there's a lot of
Oh,
downfalls.
we can get into it without. Again, I'm not going to be trying to poke
No,
the bear
it's,
and
it's,
upset
it's
too
all right.
much.
It's all good. It's a Geelong show, mate. I expect.
Oh yeah, but I'm not here to be an asshole.
But no, like, losing by that much, you go. It was a weird feeling. It was we were beating teams by this much, and then to be beaten by this much, but know that finals were around the corner. Um, it was a very, uh, very hollow feeling because on one hand you didn't care, but on the
Yeah.
other hand, it's like maybe we should have because we needed that run into finals, and then we know what happened.
Yeah, obviously in the grand
Later on.
final, but
Yeah.
yeah, it is one of those weird sort of things, and I guess the argument still gets waged. I guess about past experiences, not so much anymore because everyone has that bye in there, which maybe fuels the argument for the AFL as to why they do it in the first place. But yeah, about that whole resting thing that used to happen. The one that I think most people talk about is when Ross Lyon, when he was coaching Freo, bought a pretty depleted list. St Kilda smacked him, and it was all with the means of coming in ready and firing for finals, which they did proceed to do afterwards. But it wasn't a good look. It wasn't probably the confidence builder that the team needed. And maybe had a little bit to do with what ultimately happened against Hawthorn a few weeks later. But yeah, I'm not big. I've had times where I've really hated the idea of having that bye, only because Geelong's been horrible after a bye, typically. So yeah, I'm still a little bit unsure where I sit, but I think at the end of the day, it means that in terms of the competition more broadly and the spectacle that you get, that round 23 shouldn't be a write-off for any team because there's no point in the whole thing. You're going to get a rest in 7 days anyway.
Yeah, and then on the other hand as well, if you get that rest, win your first game, Geelong aren't playing for another 2 weeks, so they're playing 2 games in 4 weeks or whatever it is. It's like, does that help? Does that hinder? Is it better to lose that first game and go on a 3-4 game winning? It's like there's a lot, but yeah, that it does nullify the round 23. Let's rest half of our team because we've got such an important final coming up. We've got an elimination final coming up next week.
So I can't remember if you actually mentioned. Obviously, you got memories of 2010. Were you there on the day?
No. So 2010, I remember. Couldn't get tickets. I was at Fed Square, and when the final siren went, I passed out because
Oh really?
it was So I was with two.
Because obviously you had the replay.
Yeah, so we didn't know what was happening. If it was going to go to extra time or whatever it may be. So I kind of just just like a quick sort of bang and woke up, and it was just like everyone was just silent. And then watching the replay with my grandparents and my parents and stuff, it was nice. It was a nice bonding moment. I think 2011. So I would have been 18 or 19 or something. So it's pretty recent, but also pretty far away at the same time.
Oh, it feels like forever ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just looking at that with the positive lens, but it still feels there's a lot of water that's passed under the bridge since. So, yeah, and I guess we've touched on 2011 and how it played out, and I guess what do you think? Sorry, I'm really dragging you through the mud with the losses here. 2018, how did that hit? Because obviously we all know the game started so well for the Pies, and that lead, it wasn't some sudden thing. It wasn't even like, say, what we can kind of talk about from when we played early in the year, where you guys blew us away in the third. You kicked 9 goals straight, and
Yeah.
then we kind of pulled it back, and it was this sudden, shocking thing. It was this gradual erosion of a lead. Like, I mean, how are you feeling even as that progressed? Did you feel like, okay, they've beaten us by a goal here, or they've beaten us by a goal there, but it's all right. Like the momentum's going to shift back.
Yeah.
What was kind of the feeling at the time? Because it's a very death by a thousand cuts sort of way to lose a grand final, let alone obviously Dom Sheet at the end. But
Yeah. No, it was that. So that I think we put on 5 goals in that first quarter to nothing. So you think, okay,
it was unbelievable.
I watched it at the time was the Holden Centre. So it was Collingwood only. Everyone was going nuts. I was there with family, with friends, on a big beanbag chair, watching it on the big screen, and we were just having the time of our lives. Then they started getting these sort of cheap out the back sort of goals, kind of wrestled momentum back. Then you're going, okay, and we've done it a couple of times where through that season, it was never 5 goals up, put a team to the sword, kick another 5 goals, and the game's over. It was always let these teams come back in, and you kind of just had that feeling. But then I think in the fourth quarter, I've kind of wiped this from my memory, but I think in the fourth quarter, Mason Cox might have kicked 2 goals to start that fourth quarter, or Mason Cox kicked a goal in the fourth, and I thought, in my gut, this is it.
We've wrestled it back.
Yeah, this is like, how are they going to get this sort of back from us? And then soon as that roller coaster goes up, it just comes straight back down. You have Taylor Adams calling for that, or kicking that ball, and the runner going through. It was a shit kick anyway. It wasn't the runner's fault. But you had the runner come through, and then
he might be the first I've heard anyone concede that.
Oh yeah, no, it was. Well, he shouldn't have been in that position, but it wasn't his fault. Yeah. It was an absolute dumb kick to go up the corridor.
Super high risk.
Yeah, it wasn't even a high reward at the time. It was just a high risk. So, and then Yao goes back, kicks that goal, and then the ball starts rolling. I think Maynard, I don't know if it was in that last quarter, but then Maynard with Liam Ryan, and everyone talks about the Dom Sheed kick, and it was it was a left footer on a perfect angle for a left footer. So
yeah. It helped a little bit, yeah.
It was a good kick, but folklore kick, so that's fine. Like,
yeah, it's not a righty trying to do it from that pocket, which would be a whole other level of difficulty.
Exactly right. But I think the stuff leading up to that was what pains me the most. It's like Adam Treloar not taking the ball out of the boundary, kicking it high to Jeremy McGovern, and Jordan De Goey not manning Jeremy McGovern up and trying to get the cheapie around the back. McGovern goes up, takes the mark, and then it comes back. We're not manning up. Tom Langdon doesn't get up from Liam Ryan, lets him play on, doesn't get up quick enough. And it's that sort of kind of like what happened with the Essendon Collingwood game recently. It's that 40 seconds of just a snowball, and Could
you see it happening at the time? I mean, obviously you're seeing like the moment to moment because that's what's on the TV, but like, are you realizing at this point, like, before it's even gotten into Dom Sheed's hands?
Yeah, as soon as I kind of knew, as soon as McGovern got that ball, I thought they can't. And Dom Sheed, and then that Braden Maynard hold, and Dom Sheed kicks that ball, and I think might have been about a minute 40 or something left, or 2 minutes left on the clock. And for those 2 minutes or however long it was, there wasn't that you could hear. Literally, you could hear crickets at the Holden Centre ground. There was not a peep from anyone. Even when Pies were trying to attack, even when we had possession of the ball, everyone, you couldn't hear anything. And I remember the final siren, all silent. I remember crying in the car all the way home. I had to drive, crying in the car all the way home. Going home, and I go, stuff it. I'm going to get the biggest comfort food I can get. And I remember specifically getting a crispy chicken from McDonald's, an extra crispy chicken patty, large fries. I think I got a cheeseburger, sweet and sour sauce, and a strawberry thick shake. And I was
one of the best possible ways to drown the sorrows, for sure.
Yeah, I was just
better than alcohol.
Inconsolable for I reckon about a week. I think all Collingwood supporters would say that, but about a week or two, I was just it was hard to digest, and it still hurts, but you kind of
sorry, I don't get any enjoyment from bringing this up for you.
No, that's okay. Like, I kind of tweeted about it last time that the more you see the Dom She kick, the more opposition teams kind of bring it up in my Twitter replies. It's just kind of like it's taking it away, taking the magic away from it.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps, like overexposure
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
just,
Lessens it. Yeah.
yeah, and that's kind of what's happening. So it is. I am getting over. I'm more upset about the 2019 prelim than I am of the 2018 grand final. To be honest, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, obviously, 2019 is a whole other thing there. So let's not wallow in disappointments because right now, as we've already discussed, 11 in a row, you're on an incredible run. Things are looking really good. New coach.
Yep.
The new game plan. Everything's firing on all cylinders. How have you been feeling as this? I mean, the start was good, but not what it is now. But how have you, how's that feeling towards the club and the direction everything's been going changed as the year's gone on?
Yeah, it was.
And I guess where'd you even begin? Because again, change of coach, there was, all this. There's still the kind of consequences of the Trelaw trades, and obviously even as the year goes on, we hear about Grundy and all those. Even today's news, it's kind of bubbled up about Grundy. All these sort of things are kind of bubbling along on the side. We Degoe and his off-field exploits, but all the while, the club is just trucking along and banking W's. What's it been like?
It's like I said, it's just as fun as 20. It's just as fun as 2011 watching this team go about it. What Craig McRae has been able to do, and the other coaches as well. It's not just Craig, but what he's been able to do, the belief that he's instilled into this club, into the supporters again. It's just incredible. Even if we lose the next two, go out in straight sets, everything that we've learned this year is just going to hold us up for the next 10, 20 years because I feel like we're finally, and I know we just played off in the grand final as well recently, but we're finally got our identity sort of back as well. I know it's a little bit weird to say, but it's a new era for Collingwood, and Craig McRae has just been, I think, he's just been an absolute godsend for the football club. A guy that's not been, he won two premierships against us. He is not to be associated with the Collingwood Football Club was the perfect place to start.
Yeah, no, that's fair. What were you thinking at the time? Were you on the pro Bucks, or maybe it's time to move on? Not necessarily in the vile way that some people might have been, but what side of the fence were you on at the time? Now, because obviously hindsight is a beautiful thing, and we can kind of reflect and go, "It was the best thing ever." But at the time, where was your head at?
No, I was very not anti-Bucks, but I was very, it might be
time for change.
Time to move on, especially after 2018 and 2019 playing good football and then reverting to a really boring style of play. And you remember coming
that
out of
game in Perth, Geelong v
was the most boringest of games I have ever witnessed. And then going from that to 2 years, going to a goal after the siren, or
just the electric play.
Yeah, and it's just been, for lack of a better term, it's just been black and white in between those two, and it's been an incredible ride. But I was pretty, and not anti-Bucks, but just time to move on. I was very Clarkson as coach. That's obviously, who doesn't want Clarko as a coach, but I think
Hawthorn apparently.
Yeah, well, yeah. But anyone who came through a pedigree of premierships is what I wanted at the club, and who else is better than McRae? Even Voss, Carlton picking up Voss is great. There's a bunch of other, even bringing in Lepich, Kingsley as well from Richmond would have been good. There's a number of candidates, but the Pies board did really, really good bringing in McRae after Bucks.
Yeah, it was a great choice. I think there was I guess from the public who maybe hadn't seen much of what McRae had been up to behind the scenes, there might have been an initial bit of collective head scratching, but it didn't take long, and this was even me kind of as a Cats fan on the side and not having a horse in that race at all. You started hearing things about just how the culture was shifting, in terms of just how in and amongst it he was with the boys, and it's fun, it's games. Yes, we've got a game plan. Yes, we want to do this, but let's make sure we're like this first, rock solid and that sort of thing. And well, no matter what happens this year in terms of the win and loss ratio, that's the sort of club that you want to build. That's the sort of environment you want to build. And I mean, those sorts of relationships, those solid foundations are probably a main factor in why things have accelerated like they have, because
Yeah.
I mean, did you tip the Pies to be top four at the end of the year,
I don't think
or
anyone.
thereabouts, top four anyway?
I think I had us at 13th or 14th, which is improvement from 17th. But like you said, the culture is changing, and we know there's all these reports, the Do Better report, and lots of other things that have happened, to go and stuff. But the culture, you can just feel that the culture is shifting,
Yep.
and it's probably already shifted, to be honest. We got Andrew Cracker and Leon Davis back at the club. Whenever a debutant plays, it's a past player coming to presenting their jersey. Heath Shaw came back. Dale Thomas came back. We got
That all
another.
matters.
Yeah, it's those little things where, from the start, Craig said, "I want to bring back the history and the identity of this club," and that's exactly what he's done, and it's just shown, even new supporters who haven't been around for 20, 30 years, that's there's more to this Collingwood Football Club than the last 10 years.
Yeah, for sure. So the tear is continuing. Geelong and Collingwood both win after win after win, and we're 11 in a row. Focusing on your mob for a moment, because you guys have, no offense to Gold Coast and West Coast that we've got, but you guys have got the tougher run into the end here.
Yep.
Can you maintain that? Are you one of those people that talks, kind of subscribes to the whole loss that we needed to have mentality that some have?
Yeah, I think I tweeted that in the third quarter against Port Adelaide. I go, oh, this might be the loss that we needed.
Oh, yeah.
Have.
I must have missed that one.
Yeah, but look, I think, like I said earlier, I think you learn a lot from a loss. Craig McRae said you learn a lot from a loss, but you learn more from winning, and winning as we're doing. You're learning as you're going. Like, we don't have a ceiling at the moment. Like, we could, all we need is
no expectations, right?
Yeah, exactly right. So, like I said, we could get trounced by Sydney, and even though I don't want to, we can get trounced by Carlton, but I'd be happy to just make finals. I would have been happy to finish 10th.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do have a pretty difficult run. We don't play we play pretty well against Sydney in Sydney.
Yeah, you got a great history, better than most. In fact, just as a travelling team overall, the Pies are one of the best at it.
Yeah, so, and that's just that bonding that happens interstate as well. So if we can just put away Sydney, I think. And Sydney are another top 4 team.
Oh, for sure.
Kane Corns came out and said, "You've won 11 in a row. Don't over celebrate. You haven't done nothing yet. Let's win 12 in a row and show them that we can do something."
I mean, like, there's a nugget of what he says that's true. Like, ultimately, teams are there to win the flag and that sort of thing. But there is that context that you've discussed yourself, and that everyone knows about, kind of where Collingwood was at last year, and even just like how young the list is in a lot of ways. There's a lot of inexperience out there. Obviously, still some fantastic experienced players there, like Pendles and Maynard and et cetera, like the Jeremy Howes, Darcy Moore. I'll be here all day if I start rattling off the guns that you've got. Jamie Elliott, who's like the curse that comes along every time our two teams play. He's always there about scaring the shit, absolute proverbial out of us Cats fans. But I think, like, given the context, they have done something. Like, yes, 11 in a row, I get it. Like, it hasn't won you a final. Like, a final isn't part of one of those. But
yeah,
you've put yourself in the position, and that's what counts.
Yeah,
you got to get there. You got to do those things to actually have a say and have the opportunity. And okay, you're right. Like you say, maybe it goes pear shaped. Maybe you get bowled out in straight sets. Be it.
Yeah,
they learn from that too.
Yeah, and Mike Robbo and a bunch of others had us bottom 4. Robinson had us last on the ladder. Like,
yep.
And these guys get paid, like we talked about before. These guys are experts. They get paid to do this. But, like, I wouldn't have said we're going to finish top 2, but that's kind of what it's looking. One more win and we can probably finish top 2.
Yeah.
But it's just whatever happens, it's just a fun ride, and I'm so excited to be a part.
Yeah, enjoy it. So, Dakes. Is he because I think you and I probably represent the clubs with the best chance of taking out the Rising Star this year. You with Dacos and us with Sam DeConning.
Yep.
Do you think it's Dacos, trying to take the bias hat off for the both of us? Do you think it's going to be Nick that takes home the Rising Star this year?
Yeah, I think Nick might take the Rising Star in our best and fairest, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. All Australian gig.
Oh, I wouldn't mind just a top 40, just a top 40
yeah.
shot. But look, Dacos he's just another level, and there's a lot of talk about he just gets the cheap one around the back or et cetera, et cetera. But if you're just looking at stats, that's kind of what you're seeing. But if you're watching the game and you're watching how he sets up, he's just the way he sees the play. There's kind of no one besides Pendlebury. There's no one really like that on the Collingwood side. So
Yeah.
you know, um,
And every team needs that sort of player too.
yeah, 100%, and your guy as well. Like if Dacos wasn't there, he would win the Rising Star.
Yeah.
It just so happens to be that there's a lot of young guns at the moment that are playing at the same time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, I mean, let's hope that I'm saying this as the person who probably concedes that Sam DeConing's going to be the runner-up in this case. Let's just hope there's a tie.
yeah. We can always hope because he's a freak as well.
Because there are, obviously the nature of the two positions they play, huge differences, and I think they're both, as you said, totally worthy. It's just that there's got to be a winner. So
Yeah.
let's hope there happens to be two this time around. We'll split it like a Brownlow.
Because you've invited me on, fingers crossed that it is a
Oh,
tie.
you're a champion. All right, now let's cast our eyes to the finals.
Yep.
And we've obviously spoken about the what ifs, and it's if things don't work out, so be it, because there's all these lessons there. But setting that aside and looking at things purely as they stand right now, the Pies, how far can they get? Do you think that they can take it all the way, or at least all the way being to the grand final?
The biased Pie supporter in me says
Absolutely.
we can at least, absolutely, we'll win. We've got 5 more wins and we'll be right. Bias supporter in me says we at least make a prelim.
Yep.
But the head, in my head, as long as we kind of look, and I know Collingwood people will probably watch this and go, what the hell are you talking about? But as long as we kind of put in an effort in a final,
Yep.
like even if we finish top 4, go out in straight sets, like you said before, we're at least giving ourselves the best chance of winning a final. I'd love to win just one final and be happy. I'd love to win the grand final, but we know that
Please
the
don't.
grand final was like a second season.
Yeah.
You got Geelong are just going to go up another level. Melbourne are going to go up another level. Sydney, Fremantle are a really good team. Who knows what, Western Bulldogs won it from 7th or 6th or whatever the hell they were.
Yeah, no, that was 7th. Yeah, good point.
If Richmond come in and they finish 8th, who knows?
No one wants to play against the Tigers.
Exactly right. And I hope that if we beat Sydney, people are going to say no one wants to play against the Pies, and I hope that's true.
Well, there's a lot of parallels between you guys and the Swans. Like that,
Yeah.
I mean, they're a young list in large part with a few experienced heads, your buddies and those sorts of guys there that are kind of the big tentpole names that similar to Pendlebury for you guys and a side bottom, etc.
Yeah.
But it's fueled by this younger group that is chock full of energy and runs the ground and takes the game on. And
Yep.
I mean, it's going to make for a really exciting game this week, let alone if you guys happen to match up in the finals.
Yeah.
And certainly as a Cats fan, I've been saying that people obviously talk about Melbourne as being the top seed because of everything they did last year. Sydney's the one that, for me personally, I think they're the ones that, because they do have those tools in the forward line that you've discussed. And I guess if we go back to our Dacos versus DeConing thing, the amount of pressure that's on Sam DeConing on any given match would be far greater because of the nature of his role.
Yep.
And I mean, I hope that he holds up. I seriously hope that he holds up. There is going to be a damn wall that's he's got to be a damn wall. And if it starts to spring a few leaks, I worry. I worry that that's where things could potentially fall over for us.
Yeah, and it's just going to be.
And they've got the right players in the right positions to do that too.
They do. Like just anything can happen in a final series. Like Sydney are one of those teams where I wouldn't mind if they won it all. Sometimes you get teams where it's like, I just don't want you guys. I hate that you guys win it. But like Sydney,
the Tigers.
Yeah, exactly right. But like Sydney are one of those teams where you go, okay, cool. Get Buddy his flag or whatever. They're just a very. I've got nothing against Sydney. They're just a very likable team, except for this week. Where
I hate them this week. That's fine.
Where I hope we absolutely pants them this week, and they go on to drop out of the top 4.
One final thing before we kind of go with a few lighter, fun questions at the end. Like this maybe even falls into that boat anyway. When Braden Maynard laid that, well, I guess there's kind of 2 fairly iconic tackles from him on the past weekend, but most notably the one against Alex Neil-Bullen. What were you thinking at the time? Because that was something else.
That was so where I was sitting. I was right behind the goals, you kind of see it. You kind of go, oh, that looked like a big hit. That was
Yeah.
great. And then you
You
see
don't
it on
realize at the time from the crowd that his feet actually got off the ground to do it.
yeah, and then you see it on the big screen, and there was a roar when it happened from the guys on the first level,
Yeah.
and then when the other three levels saw it on the big screen, there was just a loud of a roar.
That's awesome.
It was just yeah,
It
he
was
was just
huge.
hungry. He was just hungry, and he found his victim, and unfortunately it was Alex Neil Bullen. But that's what happens when you go up against the bull, mate. You get the horns, you know.
Exactly. And, Langdon felt it early on too for his chirping early
He
on.
did, and that was good. That was good.
What did you think about that one, actually? The comments through the week, all duck, no
Uh,
dinner, that sort of thing.
I think it needs to happen a little bit more. It's a game of like I said, it's a game of emotion.
Yeah.
Why do we suppress players from saying this sort of stuff? Like I
Yeah.
loved it. Like I hated it, but I loved it. Like one, he shouldn't have been saying it, but two, I love that he said it because he has to put his money where his mouth is, and they didn't, and Melbourne didn't. But if he said it and they smashed us, media goes, damn, we should let these guys speak a little bit more because look what it did. It spurred them on to a 40-point win.
Yeah.
It backfired, and that's good for football.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah, I'd love to see more of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. It seemed really clear, and obviously we've heard the commentary. They wrote it up on the whiteboard. It was there, all that sort of thing. Apparently, Craig McRae with a horrible duck. I can't remember exactly. There's some horrible joke about it pre-game that no one really understood. But I mean, yeah, I'm with you. I'm a big fan of kind of that sort of commentary and those sorts of things. Not to the level that we necessarily see in the American sports because they just chirp all the time and it really means nothing in the end.
Yeah.
But it lights a fuse, and it's like I feel like. And obviously, I'd have no idea. Maybe as a Pie supporter, you might have a better sense for this. I feel like if you're in those rooms afterwards and you've heard those comments and they're maybe up on the whiteboard, you go, okay, yeah, like we do have one way to play and that's it.
Yeah.
So you better beat us, like because you know how to do it.
How we
So
play
come on,
now. Yeah. And they
throw
didn't.
us your best, and they couldn't do it.
Yeah, and it was perfect. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. As we wind things down, bit of fun about the Pies, about the Cats.
Yep.
Who's the best Pie you've ever seen play?
Scott Pendlebury.
Fair.
Without a doubt. I love Pendle. I love Pendles. I love how Tarrant went about it as well. I thought he was a fantastic. I kind of got the tail end of Buckley. What I saw, he was good, but it wasn't prime. It wasn't prime Buckley that I was watching because I was a bit too young. But Pendle, from my viewing, Pendlebury and Dane Swan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Both of them brilliant players. Looking on that other side of the fence, who's the best Cats player you reckon you've seen?
It's easy, isn't it?
Junior?
Yeah, it's Junior. Yeah, like the things, even when he went up to Gold Coast, like, the things he was doing there was like what I remember was that one. I think it was when he was back at Cardinia Park, maybe for the first time. Was it that right-footed kick on the boundary line?
Yeah, it was a thing of beauty.
Was that the first time he came back?
Yeah, that was his first game back. He'd missed the previous year, little injuries or whatever. Yeah. But when he finally had his first game, there was that big, huge, like floating arc curling thing that somehow just in such an ablet way floated straight through.
He was great. Like he was just there was great plays, and then he was just another level. And he saw it all. He saw premierships. He saw Brownlows. He saw everything. And he was probably one of the greatest players just in general that I've ever seen play the game.
Yeah, actually, for me, as much as it wasn't necessarily the best experience in the end, one of the memories I have the most of Gaz was actually his final game for us, 2010, against you guys in the prelim, and you guys smacked us.
Yeah.
But he was so clearly the best player on the field, it wasn't even funny. It's just he had no one to go with him, and then he was at times I felt like he was genuinely taking the piss out of everyone around him, but he just had no one to go with him. He couldn't do it. So
couldn't shoulder it all. But yeah, but when he did, it was just he was just incredible to watch.
Yeah. From here, I think the answer might be fairly obvious. We've just discussed him recently. Who's that up and coming Pie that you can't take your eyes off?
Look, I think Nick Dacos is the easy sort of question. Is the easy answer.
Yeah.
But I really like Isaac Quaynor off that half back line.
Yep.
I think he's got that sort of spunk that you need as a halfback flanker because it can be a tedious sort of job. But as a young player, I think it'd be, if it wasn't Nick Dacos, I just love what Quaynor does. Takes the game on, runs, He isn't afraid to use the ball. Isn't afraid to cut into the middle if he needs to. Take the game on if he needs to. I'm just glad I'm glad he's at the Pies.
Again, looking down the side of the fence, can't help it. It's a Geelong show. Who's that young bloke that you look across at? And I mean, maybe it's Sam De Koning. Is there someone else? Maybe I've pitched you on Brad Close tonight, and maybe you've come about there. But I mean, is there anyone that you look at and go, "Oh, like that one? That's one to watch over the next few years."
Look, I do now. Yeah, now it's Brad Close. Now we're just going to watch Geelong games just for him. But yeah, it's Brad Close now. But it's probably Atkins as well.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah.
We'll wrap things up there. We've waxed about the Geelong and the Pies for a long time, and really some awesome stuff that you're doing. And we want to make sure we take a moment to acknowledge all that. You're doing some incredible stuff representing the Pies there through all your various different platforms. If anyone wants to see what you're up to, interact on social media, whatever, where should people go?
Swoop Luke on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Nice and easy.
Awesome. And obviously the Cats and the Pies may find themselves playing in the next few weeks. Maybe both teams are looking to settle who's going to have the longest streak in the end, for all we know. I send my best up to a point. Good luck right up until that point, and then hopefully in the fourth quarter we can just put you away.
No, thanks for having me on, mate. I really appreciate it.
And good luck with the finals to come.
No, you too. Just not too much luck.
Yeah. Cats fans, make sure to subscribe to The Hoop Show on YouTube, Behind the Play on podcast feeds, remain Geelong strong, and I'll see you next week. Thanks again, Luke.
See you, mate. Bye.